Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Italy Travel Podcast. I'm Nathaniel Mellor.
And I'm Darcy Melton.
And today we are going to continue talking about Pompeii. This is the episode for those of you who would like functional and actionable information. We had a lot of fun on Wednesday's episode just talking about why you should go. And today it's all about how to get there, when you should go, what you should see, other little bits and bobs, things we found interesting. I think that'll be today's episode.
Yeah.
Unless I'm
excited.
Totally missing something. But before we get into that, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has been listening, who has been following, who has been leaving reviews. We really deeply appreciate it. If you would like to follow or leave a review, you can do so on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Second, massive thank you and shout out to Ariel and Austin, our Rigatoni tier members on Patreon. If you would like to check out our Patreon, you can do so patreon.com/the Italy Travel Podcast. You can also join our free chat there and just chat with your other fellow travelers. We have a website as well, onlyabag.com, where you can find articles on Italy, on travel, on your upcoming trip. You can also send us a message there if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback. We'd love to hear it. But as always, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much.
So I guess let's just jump in. How do you get to Pompeii?
Okay, the easiest way to get there, I think, both from Naples and from Sorrento, which are classic places people might be coming from, you can take the Circumvesuviana train that looks like Circumvesuviana, right?
Yeah.
And that is, we've talked about it before. In the summertime, it is packed and sweaty, but it gets you from point A to point B super simple.
And as you mentioned, it's super sweaty. It has no air conditioning on board. It also has no assigned seats. So if you get on, for instance, in like Naples Garibaldi Station, it's just a madhouse. As a note on that, I believe Sorrento and Naples Porta Nolana stations both have elevators rather than just stairs or escalators if you need an elevator.
Porta Nolana in Naples, that's where it originates?
That's where it originates. So if you want the insider tip on how to get a seat on the Circumvesuviana, you actually start at Porta Nolana, where the train will start. And then once it leaves, it takes 45 seconds to get to Garibaldi.
Yeah, basically, if you're in Naples, the Porta Nolana station is very, very close to Garibaldi, which is the central train station. So it's a pretty easy and fast walk if you want to go to the Porta Nolana instead.
Exactly.
And so like Nathaniel said, that's where the elevator is. There is no elevator for the Circumvesuviana at Garibaldi. It's kind of tricky to find because it's on a different set of tracks than other ones.
It is on a different set of tracks.
So you have to find it and then go down the stairs. The escalators are almost never working. So yeah, Porta Nolana is an easier one if you're in Naples.
Exactly. And again, right now, because not many people know about it, and when you say Garibaldi, we are referring to the central train station in Naples.
Thank you.
Porta Nolana is a 3 or 4 minute walk, maybe, from Garibaldi station. So if you're already near there or around there, it is really not that far away.
Yeah.
Just in terms of getting a seat, using the elevator, and then having just kind of an easier
It's a much more relaxed way to start that journey.
Much more relaxed way.
And then Sorrento is just the central train station in Sorrento.
It's a madhouse. It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's no way around that, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then the other option from Naples specifically is you can take the bus, right?
Well, you can also take the Campania Express.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
If I may. If I might just suggest. But it runs on the exact same train line. I believe it's just supposed to be slightly fancier version, if you will. It only stops at the tourism sites, so Herculaneum, Pompeii.
So it's supposed to be faster in that way.
Yes.
Okay.
You're putting air quotes around supposed to be, because that's supposed to be is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, it's not always faster, the Campania Express versus the Circumvesuviana, getting to those tourist sites.
Exactly. But that one does have assigned seats. It does have some luggage area, and it does have air conditioning. So it is basically the tourism train, because it's supposed to be something like, oh, if you're coming from the States, you might be used to air conditioning. I'm laughing because that's obviously the big conversation happening right now.
But honestly, in the summertime right now, it might be very much worth it.
It might be. It is, I think, $15 per person for the Campania Express versus, I think it's like €4 and change to go the entire route, Naples to Sorrento. I don't think
And that's on the Circumvesuviana.
And that's
you're
in
saying?
Circumvesuviana. I think Pompeii is a little cheaper. If I'm not mistaken, though, the Campania Express ticket is good for that one direction. So it is designed to be that you can take it from Naples to Pompeii, hop off at Pompeii, explore the park, get back on the train, and then continue to Sorrento. You cannot go back with it, but you can continue forward. According to their website, I don't know how that works with assigned seats, but according to their website. But that is, and then yes, of course, the bus.
I don't really know anything about the bus. It seems chaotic.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Naples city bus. I think it's bus 14 and 15, if I'm not mistaken, that goes from essentially Garibaldi Station, where a lot of the buses, the city buses stop, and it's kind of like the extra urban city bus, if you will.
Okay.
So just sort of, it hits a bunch of these little places on the way down.
That's a long way to take a city bus.
It is, they say it's about 35, 40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of the same
That's not
speed
bad,
as
actually.
the train. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we've been on a bus in Rome for more than an hour.
Going literally not that far. It does, I will say, I think it is probably a little cheaper. Depending on the tickets, it might be a little cheaper than the Campania Express. So, excuse me, than the Circumvesuviana. So if you're trying to do like a super tight shoestring budget type thing where, you know, if you're like, I'm going to spend 20 euros a day and most of that's going towards a Pompeii ticket, then I can see it as an option. I wouldn't recommend it as an option necessarily otherwise, unless you're not actually staying in Naples proper and you happen to be staying near a train station, or excuse me, near the bus stop instead.
That makes sense.
It also doesn't necessarily get you right to the same same stop that the train gets you.
Okay.
It'll still
because
get you
the
to
train
the park,
gets
though.
you basically, you arrive almost at the front gate of the park.
Oh,
it takes you
exactly.
directly there.
And I
versus
think
the bus, which is outside the park.
It's outside the park. I think it brings you near to where the tourism buses go. Like if you're on one of the big bus tours, I think there's a bus park. So I mean, it's really not that far away. It's like 6 of one, half dozen the other. There is also the Frecciarossa, the fast train from Rome, for those of you who are interested. I think they enacted it in 2022, I believe, June of 2022. I remember it was big news. But there is a fast train from Rome to Napoli a Fragola, and that is the Naples train station that is just outside of Naples proper. And from there, you switch to what is called a Freccia Link, which is just a bus, and they bring you to the entrance of the park.
Okay.
That is essentially an attempt to skip the entire Circumvesuviana Campania Express thing, but also make a day trip from Rome to Pompeii possible. Previously, it was a bit of a difficulty, for lack of a better word. It was a bit more of a lot of transfers, and you had to line up the train with the Circumvesuviana. It was a whole thing. But now it's as simple as you get on in Termini, I believe, the Rome's main central train station. You hop on the fast train, go all the way down to Naples, a Fragola, not Centrale, and it looks like a Fragola, which is a strawberry in Italian, and it has nothing to do with strawberries, which is deeply disappointing.
Sad, yeah.
And then you switch to a bus that should be waiting for you there, and then you just scoot on down to Pompeii. And I think the bus does not wait for you, but it comes back. Just it's not that important either way. But
what do you mean?
Like it's
on a loop.
It's on the loop, exactly. So it's not like a once a day. It's a multiple times a day.
Got it.
It'll arrive there like with people, and then multiple times a day it'll leave. So if you want to spend a few hours at Pompeii versus an hour at Pompeii, there are options to take that back to Rome.
Cool. One other tip is that if you're looking on any sort of maps app, is to, whenever you're talking about the archaeological park of anywhere, put in, like, for example, in Pompeii, there is Pompeii, the modern city, and then Pompeii Archaeological Park. So just the same as if you're going to Herculaneum, there's Ercolana, which is the modern day city, and then the Archaeological Park of Herculaneum. So that's just a tip anytime, so that directions can take you to the modern city sometimes. So you want to make sure that you're going to the archaeological site.
2 quick notes on that. The archaeological sites are usually called scavi, S-C-A-V-I. So that means like ruins or archaeological sites. So if you are seeing like a bus, for example, that goes to Pompeii and Pompeii scavi, or you'll notice on the Circumvesuviana, sometimes a stop will say, Stabia scavi rather than Stabia. It's just letting you know that this is the ruins. This is where the archaeological park is versus the town. One other note is you mentioned the city of Pompeii being slightly different than the archaeological park. that is, I think, most important is to keep that in mind when you're coming from Salerno, or if you're staying on the Amalfi Coast and you're coming through Salerno, or anything like that, because you can take a train from Salerno to Pompeii. That will drop you off in the city of Pompeii at the train station in Pompeii. That is about a kilometer and change, I think, from the Archeological Park of Pompeii. So it's not, if you're in Salerno, basically, there is the Circumvesuviana, the Campania Express, the Freccia Link, all of those don't actually go from Salerno to the Pompeii Scavi. They just go to Pompeii, the town. So it's not the end of the world, but you might end up in a fairly modern little town, little city going, where are the ruins?
And I think there's a bus I think it's a bus that you can get from the train station, right? To the archaeological site?
From Salerno?
If you arrive at the train station in Pompeii.
I think there's a city bus. Yeah, there's something. It's because at least Google Maps shows me something, and I'm assuming there's something based on the fact that there's no way people have not made that mistake before, and they don't have something in place of like, we should do this, because they are pretty good about trying to get tourists there in a very pain-free way.
So I did just double check that. We paused for a moment. So yes, there is a city bus. It is the 001 from the station in Pompeii, the city station, not the archaeological site station. And that will drop you off very near a place called Ristorante Suisse, which is just kind of a good landmark to have. That's where we met our tour guide whenever we went to Pompeii. So it will get you, that bus will get you to the archaeological site.
If you happen to show up on the other train station.
Exactly.
Going, where is everybody?
Yeah.
So tickets.
Okay. So tickets are a little bit complex. I'm just going to give you the rundown, and there will be a
quiz later.
There will be a link in the description to get to these tickets. And this is all through. So if you see on the site and you're a little freaked out by it because it takes you to an external site, on the official Parco Archeologico di Pompeii, they use like Viva Ticket. It's the same as like essentially using like Ticket One or Ticketmaster or something like that. Don't worry, it's not a scam. That's just what they use to process their ticketing. So let's go through this. There is a daily limit of how many people can enter the park. 20,000 visitors can enter the park per day. That's because I believe this statistic is from 2025, that there were 4 million visitors in the year in 2025.
I was going to say in the day?
And then it peaked and went just above 36,000 people per day on the busiest days.
If I'm not mistaken, too, I think because there's a news article about it here, and that was on a free day where they realized that it was way too many people to let in because everybody was trying to go in. And then they think it's like the first Sunday or something like that will be a free day or something like that. And
I think so, yeah.
I mention this mostly though because during really busy days in the summer where like all the tourists are in town, I don't know how frequently they hit that peak of 20,000, but I do know on the free days, even in the off season, everybody even a lot of Italians go there.
Yeah. And even so, I would suggest that you get your tickets ahead of time. You can buy them there, but because you're going to have to make a trek to get to Pompeii, very likely, it's probably just a better idea to go ahead and get your tickets ahead of time.
Yes.
And when you do that, you're going to have to fill out a decent amount of information per traveler. It's not just, hello, I'd like 3 tickets online, please. You have to give your name, like your full name, and then your, I think, passport number and some other information. And then when you get there and you present them with your printed out ticket, you will have to show them your ID or passport. They're very on, each ticket has to be per person.
If I'm not mistaken too, I think the Colosseum in Rome is like that, where you get the ticket for a time slot and you have to give information. And then when you show up, they basically say, let me make sure it matches your passport, matches your ID card if you're a European citizen. I think it's just, again, as a way of like, my understanding is it's a way of preventing scalpers from reselling, from buying up all the tickets and reselling them. So it is a pain for sure, but it's the alternative was for a while is ticket reselling websites, basically tripling the price on something that is not that expensive.
Yeah, so inconvenient, but altogether seems like it's a good thing. And you mentioned things being timed. So there are also time slots in Pompeii. There's 2 per day. So whenever you buy your ticket, you'll say, I want a morning ticket or an afternoon ticket.
Oh, okay.
So the morning time slot is from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then the afternoon is from 1 p.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
And further, they break this down by saying like how many people can enter in those two times. That's not that important for you all, but it's interesting perhaps to know that the maximum number of people who can enter during the morning period is 15,000 and then 5,000 in the afternoon.
And do you know if they kick you out after 1 o'clock? Or?
I don't think they do. They certainly in the evening, whenever the park closes, which I think is at, so I have to check.
I think it's 7.
7, okay. They certainly come around and make sure no one's, stuck in the park
Lurking.
accidentally or just wandering around and not knowing what time it is.
So I'm thinking, now we're already past the longest day of the year, but even when we were there, this is in May, and I think we got there at whatever it was, 3 something. But my point is simply, it was much later than we thought it was leaving.
Right.
And it was still quite bright out.
I think it was like 6:30 or 6:45. It was like people were dwindling, and I had no idea how late it was. I just lost track of time.
Exactly. So I think it's easy to do, especially if you're going in the summer where you're thinking like, oh, I've got hours left, and not realizing that, oh, it's actually closing in 15 minutes.
You don't want to be like stuck in the museum overnight or something like that.
They should make a movie about that.
Okay, but Night at the Museum at Pompeii, though?
That does sound good. Or terrifying.
I think terrifying. It could be like the Halloween, like horror movie version.
That'd be nice.
Okay, so moving on.
If you're a movie producer, hit us up. We have an idea for you.
So let's briefly talk about the different ticket types you can get, because it was confusing to me whenever we went. So we just got the Pompeii Express. That is basic in that you're only getting into the Park of Pompeii itself, not the outside villas. But there's so much to see, y'all. I think the word express makes it seem like you're only going to see a small portion of something. You get to see all of Pompeii proper. It's just that outside villas and sort of extended villas you're not going to get to see.
Okay.
But that was plenty for us. We spent, 4 hours there?
Yeah.
And that
I think at least.
It was well worth it.
And you say outside villas, you mean, do you have a list on which villas that does or does not include by any chance?
Yes. My next one, so Pompeii, so this is only the ancient city of Pompeii and suburban villas not included. Whenever you go up to the Pompeii Plus, you get to see the ancient city of Pompeii plus the Villa of Mysteries and the Villa of Diomedes.
I was going to ask about that. Okay.
Yes, so that is Pompeii Plus, and that's the one that I think they kind of, not they don't push it on the website, but that's what they kind of propose to most people. And I think at least the Villa of Mysteries is accessed through the park itself versus some of the other ones. Like if you're doing the Grande Pompeii ticket, you will have to go to take a shuttle bus to different sites.
Okay, because I think the first time we went to the Villa of Mysteries. So we had whatever ticket that was. And I don't know if it was just a ticket and it was for everything or how it was, but it's a little walk away from the town of Pompeii, quote unquote. And it was, lovely, obviously. It's Pompeii. And I just didn't know if we had sprung for the expensive one.
I think in the last 10 years, they've changed their ticketing a little bit. And that could be because just there's so many people visiting. I'm not sure.
And a lot of tours, at least when you were looking at tours, don't take you to the villas and stuff unless
there's just not
specific
time.
Tour. Exactly.
But if there's a specific part of Pompeii that you want to visit that is not included in the basic ticket, but you only want to see that one extra thing, you can add on certain sites. For, I think what I have in my notes, for just €8 extra, you get to see the suburban villas. So you can add on for €8 extra the Villa of Mystery, the Villa of Diomede, and the Villa Regina, I think, as well as the Antiquarium and Bosco Reale. So if you want to add those on, you can do that.
Because I think the Regina and Bosco Reale are not actually in that site. I don't know that third one you said in the middle there.
Bosco Reale or the...
Because the Mysteries and the
Antiquarium?
That's the one. I don't know where that is either.
It is outside of the sort of main part of the park.
Okay.
And there is a free shuttle.
Okay.
Yes. So the third ticket type quickly is the Pompeii Plus. So that is everything that you see, that's the Grande Pompeii. So everything you see with Pompeii Plus Oplantis, Villa Ariana, Villa San Marco, the Archeological Museum of Stabie, and Bosco Reale. So you get to see everything on that ticket. And so yes, so there is a free shuttle that will take you to those different sites if you need to get there.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes it a lot easier. I'm looking on the map because especially Villa Regina is straight up in the middle of nowhere in the middle of an apartment complex.
Yes.
And like clearly partially underground, like they were building another apartment building and they found
Yeah,
Villa
exactly.
Regina and they thought, oh, that's
Exactly.
neat. That's
And
good to know though.
and the free shuttle bus is called Arte Bus. It goes between Stabia, Oplantis, and Bosco Reale. So you can find that on the Pompeii website.
And what time of day would you suggest going?
I highly recommend going in the afternoon.
Why is that?
Well, there are far few people. It's also, I mean, that's number one. There are far few people. It's more calm. You can see things without feeling like overwhelmed, I feel. And especially these days, it's cooler in the evenings. It's hecka hot right
Yeah,
now. So if you're
yeah.
coming in the summertime, the city is going to be radiating heat. It's all stone. It's still going to be hot in the afternoons, but in general, it tends to cool down and just be nicer in the afternoons.
And I think that was something that the tour guide actually had mentioned to us that when we'd gone, he was really pushing the afternoon. He was like, you should really come in the afternoon, especially because you were going with your students. And I think for 3 of them, it was their first time to Pompeii. And he's like, it really should be in the afternoon. So we did. And it was wild because when we got there, it was actually a fair number of people still there. But after the first like stop or two, we were on some of those main roads that just run east, west, north, south. And it was, I mean, not empty, but like 20 or 30 people on the
Yeah.
roads kind of thing.
And there were certain parts, because it is so big, there were certain parts where there was nobody around,
Yeah. And
which is insane. It's just magical.
And it also, I think, unless you are somebody who wants to be up and out early and maximize your day, I would recommend as well, like definitely go in the afternoon. I think it is a totally different experience seeing it again, just with fewer people around. However, if you are thinking like, well, I don't want to just walk around Naples or walk around Sorrento all morning, you could, in theory, if you wanted to do things a little backwards, you could, in theory, go to the Naples Archeological Museum first. I normally would tell people go second because so much of the Archaeological Museum there is stuff from Pompeii.
Yes. So that's something that I would say is like a 50-50, whether people know this or not, is that a lot of what was found in Pompeii, a lot of the artifacts, are no longer in Pompeii, even though there is a small museum there that does have some stuff and even some recreations of those things. Most of the actual artifacts are in the Archaeological Museum in Naples.
So if you are thinking like, I guess, I mean, because a lot of it just the some of the casts are there, a lot of the extra things, like the things they found, like the jewelry or the bits of marble and things are...
A lot of the mosaics, I think,
Yeah.
if they weren't just intact in a wall or on the ground, some of the mosaics have been moved as well.
And I think that some of it I was thinking too is to prevent people. They talk about archaeology in like the 1700s because that was when it was like really first quote unquote excavated, and apparently there's a lot of it was some theft, some archaeology, and
I mean, that happens today, not in Pompeii, but there are so many ancient sites all over Italy. And knowing people who are architects here, who aren't the ones who are doing this, but they know of certain situations where people have gone in to do either construction work or something like that, and they end up finding something ancient. And people either who are working on the job or hear that something has been excavated or found, people will go and steal, loot some of those artifacts. So
oh yeah,
makes
Oh,
sense
yeah.
that would have been happening back in the day too.
And I mean, it's one of those things that I think in the late 1500s, like 1590s, an architect who was building an underground aqueduct for Torre Annunziata, a town sort of on the coast there of the Gulf of Naples, just south of Naples, found Pompeii, like was digging through and found Pompeii and didn't tell anybody because he didn't really want to stop the creation of the
Yeah.
underground aqueduct. But it's one of those things where people talk about like it was lost, and it was like, yeah, until he found it, and then 100 years later somebody else found it, and then they really found it 100 years after that. Which is all simply to say that a lot of the times when they did find something, they would steal some of it, and then part of the Naples Archaeological Museum has recovered some of it, so it's on display, and the rest is just simply, we should take this and preserve it before
Yeah.
it's gone forever.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of a, going back to like the puzzle piece thing, it's a very big part of the missing puzzle of Pompeii. It's kind of like when you're in Pompeii, you're like, this is incredible, and then you go and see it's like all the details, I guess,
Yeah.
and all the little things that would have made it very individual or a unique
Yeah,
feeling.
exactly. And that is a separate ticket. You'll have to get a separate ticket, of course, to get into the
Unfortunately,
Archaeological
yeah.
Museum. Yeah, unfortunately. And it's a little, I don't want to say it's expensive. It's priceless artifacts that you get to see, but it's 20 euros per person, I think. But it is really worth it. It's a great museum.
It's it's fantastic. It's just, I think everybody puts 20 euros as a price tag on museums. And if you can only go to one or two, like in your trip through Italy, then it becomes like, oh, well,
It's a good one, though.
it is a great
I mean,
one.
and it obviously has much more than just the, things from Pompeii. It has a lot of interesting artifacts and things.
But they also have the secret cabinet. So if you want to go and
Yeah.
look at the priceless sexual paraphernalia of Pompeii, you too can do so
Yeah.
in Naples.
Exactly. We did. It was fun.
It's if you go with kids, apparently they even today need either written permission. I'm not sure from who. I assume a parent, but I'm not sure if
Oh, I thought kids under a certain age weren't allowed.
I think they're not allowed, and then there's an age range in which they're allowed accompanied by a parent or with written permission from a parent. And I assume that's for like school trips. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
that
not
makes
sure
sense.
I don't think 12-year-olds can just show up alone to the
Right.
museum and be like, no, my mom said I could be here. I think there has to be some sort of
I think that would be suspicious.
yeah, but it's fascinating. Apparently, it's not apparently, it's very much an interesting room, and
Yeah, it's fun.
The clash of something I read was like the European Reformation clashes with the sort of sexual freedom of Roman times,
Yeah, there you go.
which is why it's all shoved in a room somewhere, and it wasn't really opened until like 2000. But that's neither here nor there. So what else?
You know where it is? It is at the Naples Archaeological Museum. That was just a silly thing. Okay, so
love
should
that.
we give some fun facts?
To round up the episode.
Yeah.
One fun fact, not even fun fact, actually, if I may, we mentioned it briefly in Wednesday's episode, and I just thought it was fun in the sense of just again putting that into perspective, or putting Pompeii into perspective specifically. Is we do have this image of it sort of disappearing after 79 CE, and in fact, I think it didn't. No, I think it very much did not actually disappear until about 512 CE. That's when eruptions occurred, I think, in like 479, 482, and then
Okay.
again in 512. So it was kind of just hit
It
hard.
was just rumbling.
And I mean, they mentioned this actually in that one, funny enough, that Doctor Who episode, but it really, people thought it was a mountain up until it erupted,
Right.
which is fair.
But there hadn't been eruptions, but there had been earthquakes before 79?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it is fair because there are mountains to the south, and there are mountains to the north, and there are mountains to the east. It's a little unobvious as a mountain. Like it's a little bit like it is flat all the way around Vesuvius. It is just flat, and then all of a sudden you have mountain. But to be fair, kind of just to the south is where the mountains around like Sorrento start. So it's not totally. It's not like a completely flat area with this one random mountain. It is like, oh yeah, I guess it's just part of the chain that got
Yeah, it makes
disconnected
sense.
somehow until it erupted and everybody was apparently very surprised. But it was, 512 it was finally buried, and that's when it was like buried for good, kind of leading it to be forgotten, quote unquote. And I'm saying quote unquote because I think it's romantically considered to be a forgotten city, and then it was refound again.
Okay.
In actuality, it was never really forgotten. Maps, even after 512, had Pompeii on the map. I think in 1500, there was a map that was made based off a map from 1200, both having Pompeii on the map. And then again, as I mentioned, in the late 1500s, I think 1594, an architect found Pompeii. In the late 1600s, somebody found it again. They found they found like a villa of Pompey, Pompey, of the Roman fellow,
Okay.
thinking it was like, oh, I found Pompey's villa, awesome, not realizing it was a villa of Pompeii, and it wasn't until like basically he just mistranslated it, got a friend to help him translate it, and they're like, oh, this is the lost city of
Was
Pompeii.
it written like that on a map or on the wall? How did he know?
He
that
found a piece of stone, basically.
in the building?
Kind of like, yeah, I guess like when he was spelunking or something, like because they were kind of doing a lot of, they found Herculaneum before they found Pompeii, if I'm not mistaken, and mainly just, digging things up. I think when the Bourbon king was having like a palace built near Herculaneum today is when they found it, and I believe he was the one to preserve it. But also once they had started finding a lot of the I think later, 100 years later, when they started finding a lot of artifacts, it was, I believe, a Bourbon king who also took all the sexual parts of Pompeii out and was like, we need to not show that to people, and stuck it in a room. I think because he didn't realize it was there, so he went with his granddaughter, and it was not the trip you wanted to make with your granddaughter, apparently. And was super embarrassed and was like, no one should ever see this again. Some of it was actually covered. Like, I mean, they bricked it back up, and like 100 years later, they found it again.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, fun little history. But the fun fact was simply that it's a forgotten city, quote unquote, but only kind of, and not actually ever really. It was more just, it might have fallen out of public sort of perception, but it was never truly forgotten. Again, like we talked about this Pestrum, it's a forgotten city, but it's 3 totally intact Greek temples.
Which are absolutely massive.
Yeah, it's hard to be like, oh, we forgot they were there. No, what? We knew they were there. So I mentioned that, and then of course in the late 1700s, that's when it was added to the Grand Tour, and it never really got forgotten again.
Yeah,
which that was fascinating.
That is fascinating.
So that was the first fun fact.
I want to talk about the dog. Was it a painting you were telling me about, or mosaic?
It was one of those little. It was a fresco they found in a. I don't know, like the name. My pronunciation, by the way, of Latin, I feel is absolutely terrible, and I apologize. It was in a thermopolium. It was like one of those. It's the word for the snack bars or inn, but in this case, it's been a snack bar where you stop and grab a bite to eat. And there's a fresco of a dog on a leash, and they're not really sure what it like meant, but they kind of assumed it was put your dog on a leash before entering was like the
I love that,
the vibe. But I thought it was fascinating because they did end up finding the skeleton of a tiny adult dog, only measuring about 8 to 10 inches, 20 to 25 centimeters at the shoulder, which they think means that Romans at that time were already selectively breeding dogs for, I mean, I guess if you're living in a small house, you kind of want a small dog.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting because where we live, there are a lot of dogs that look different, but all have a very similar body shape, and they're all quite small. And I know that sounds silly, but it's like black dogs and brown dogs with different kinds of faces, and they're clearly bred from multiple different kinds of dogs, but they're often very small and have short little legs. And they're, of course, not the same breed of dog that were in Pompeii 2,000 years ago. But I just thought it was interesting that that's something that you and I have noticed. Maybe like last year or something, we both kind of mentioned that to each other. We're like, hey, a lot of the dogs here look like very similar.
Same dog,
and they're not from the same family, you know? So it's interesting that might have been happening there too. Of course, they're breeding
honestly,
dogs.
everyone's like, this is a great dog. If do you want one? They had another litter. Please take one. Take the dog. The other thing I found was kind of fun. I stumbled on this, and it is related not at all. I mean, it's related to Pompeii, and that's literally the only relation. I just thought it was cool. Again, going back to this sort of idea that there's nothing new under the sun. Something we didn't talk about, and I guess we could if you wanted to, is also the painting styles. This is not my fun fact, but going back to the nothing new under the sun, was there are 3 main styles of painting of the Pompeii era. I think it's just literally called first style, second style, and third style. And Pompeii, when it was destroyed by an earthquake, a lot of the frescoes were redone and repainted with the third style, which is kind of a mix of first style, kind of a mix of second, but a little bit more simplistic and minimalist. I think, though, first style is considered to be very Trump loyal, the sort of deceive the eye. I did not realize it was the l'oeil, the French part of that was the eye. I thought it was oil. Is not, it's eye. And so that's all about like these sort of fake doorways or fake, like, and you still see it in parts of their frescoes in Rome and stuff where they like painted a column and they have the sort of the shadow and the highlight, so it looks, 3-dimensional, and it's not. And that would apparently been first style. Second style was a lot of emphasis on fruits and vegetables and animals and stuff. And I think there are at least one pretty big fresco in somebody's garden in Pompeii. The garden's now covered, so it's not like out in the rain, but of all the fruits and vegetables and animals and things like that. And then third style is a bit of a blend of these two, but much more minimalist. It was kind of like stripping things back, but they still did like the fake marbling and a little bit of like the light lines to indicate highlight. And the point is, I wanted to mention that because it's funny. I mean, you were an artist going with other artists, and from my perspective as a non-artist, it was kind of interesting to know that like, wow, we've been doing the same thing for 2,000 years.
Exactly.
And one of the when I was just looking at things for Pompeii, trying to mostly figure out like how much excavation is still happening, something I found is that in 2021, so 5 years ago, they found a painted tomb of a freed slave named Marcus Venerius Secundio, and he did not die during the eruptions because they found his tomb with the mummified human remains. So he was
So he died before that.
He died before that.
Okay.
But he's well known. He was basically the custodian of the Temple of Venus, and which is like what he became after he was freed. But he also organized Greek and Latin performances, and it was some of the first evidence we have of Greek revival cultural like events happening in Pompeii, because Pompeii started as I think it was like an Oscan town that became Greek, or Greek that became Oscan, which was Oscans and were some of the first people of this area in Italy, and then later fell to Rome. But he was doing like these like revivals basically in the Greek language, and I thought that was really cool because again, it's the same kind of things that people still kind of do, like doing something like, I mean, Shakespeare in the original pronunciation or whatever it is, and I thought that was really cool to do. It's a guy putting on plays, and he's famous for it, and I thought like that's
that's cool,
neat part of just, again, like it kind of paints that picture of life and culture and sort of what people valued, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Having a very wealthy playwright is kind of cool, just because it's like, oh, you guys valued in being I don't know, entertained for a bit.
Wow.
And my own my last fun fact that I had written down was in 2020. It looks like a lot of this kind of stuff, by the way, started like in late 2019, early 2020. I don't know if it was COVID. They just started doing different, like,
okay.
It was now, I mean, empty, so they maybe had time because they were doing a lot of different excavations and things and trying new methods. So I didn't know, and a lot of the upkeep was kind of done then. So I don't know if they were like, hey, it's empty, might as well make use of it. One thing they started doing is replanting the gardens of these villas. So using like as much as they can as like, I mean, again, very little, or not very little is written about Pompeii. A lot of it is written about Pompeii at the time, but they're trying to figure out, based on what they would have been growing there, what it would have been, sort of how it would have been organized, if you will, and trying to recreate the gardens. Because we know that the vineyards, and like Rome had their own measurements, obviously. I cannot for the life of me remember what they are, but one of the things I was fascinated by is that the vineyards of Pompeii were well known for being incredibly productive. And Claudius, I think it was, somebody basically was, put forward the idea that if a piece of land can't produce X amount of wine, it should be uprooted and replanted. The vineyard should be uprooted and replanted. And I think it's something like, it was 300 gallons, give or take, for every fourth of a hectare. It was something fairly,
I can't ever remember how big a hectare is.
Well, me either. And this is only a fourth of it. When I looked up the actual measurement, it was like, it's 220 Roman feet. And I'm like, I don't know Roman feet to American feet. I don't know what that means. Or to meters, which is what the rest of the world uses. But I thought it was interesting that they had even kind of these like already measurements for how much wine Pompeii should produce. And it was already exporting it to the rest of the Roman Empire at that time. But I just thought it was kind of fascinating.
A hectare is about 2.5 acres.
Good to know. So it was a fourth of 2.5 acres.
Yep.
So
math.
There we go. Like 0.6 acres should produce something like 400 gallons of wine.
That's a lot.
And apparently they had no problem doing that. Like that was just like, it was so productive.
Dang.
And I don't know, I'm curious to know the techniques, because one article claimed that it was similar techniques used back then that they still use today.
Oh.
But it might not, I'm not sure how true that is, based on the fact that a lot of Italian wine farming today uses a French method of making sure it faces the sun.
We learned that at a vineyard nearby Pompeii.
Exactly.
And what is the name of it?
The vineyard?
The vineyard. It's gone off.
It is called Quirinoli.
Quirinoli. Yes, we'll put that in the description as well. You do have to take a car to get there, but it was lovely, and they gave us a little tour and explained, that the way I think most of us think of seeing a vineyard looking is in the French style, where the Italian style, it almost provides too much shade to the grapes compared to the French style.
Because the Italians would have been like a pergola almost, and you have the vines over you, but that means the fruit hang down in the shade, so they don't actually get sun on them, which means they don't get as sweet, and the alcohol content wouldn't be as high. Unlike the French, which they made it so it's those long rows and try to get sun all day.
Yeah,
So
that's fascinating.
It was. I'm always fascinated by these sort of that sort of you figure out an agricultural sort of method, and then it's just like unchanged for hundreds of or not, if not more years, because it just that was the best method. You nailed it. So that was my last little piece of information, was just the fact that well, I wasn't even about the wine. That was the funny part. It was mostly just about the fact that they've now started to put in these gardens. So at some of the villas, you can see what would have been the original gardens.
Neat.
What we assume would be the original gardens.
I just thought of a fun fact that we learned on our recent trip there. So at the fancier houses, so neighborhoods were often designed in a certain way that there would be like the patron of the neighborhood, and he would have had an office in his house, which is like where he would greet people, and it was often very near the front of the house. And it just reminds me of, I don't know, like watching HGTV growing up, and they're like, and this one has a home office right off the foyer, very convenient for home working.
It's also not entirely unlike today, where a lot of people who do have their studios, quote unquote, at their houses.
Yeah.
I'm specifically in Italy, I should say, where it's like architects or, I mean, my doctor has her foyer. It's like, oh yeah, that's where she takes the guests, and the rest of it is the
all
house.
kinds of people have their like a home office foyer downstairs situation for work.
So it's kind of funny, like it hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
But that has been all of my fun facts to round up the episode on how to get there, how to get around, best time to visit, tickets, what you can and I guess can't see, but mostly what you can see.
Yeah. I guess I have one more little fun fact, which is just that if you're like me and you heard Nathaniel's fun fact about the dog on a leash fresco, there is a famous dog on a leash mosaic that you can also see, and that says Cave Canum, which is beware of dog. So there are at least 2 dog related items you can see. I mean, there's a bunch.
There's at least a gravestone too.
Yeah.
And it was like, here rests, and I want to say Argo, but I'm not sure if that's just because I'm thinking of Odyssey.
Oh yeah.
But it was like the best boy, essentially.
Oh,
is the
goodness.
I know.
I bet he was
People
the best
of Pompeii
boy.
love their dogs, which is, I mean, we have a cat, so I don't know. I feel like we can't adopt a dog now too.
Not right now. Maybe when she's a little more adjusted. She's also our producer, Nathaniel. She has a lot going on.
She's a lot on her plate right now. She can only handle so many things.
And that's been Pompeii and fun facts.
That has been Pompeii. We hope this information was helpful. Like I said, we did not want to get, or like I said, somebody said on Wednesday, we didn't want to get too much into the history because it's just a lot and you're going to learn it going there. But it is very much worth your time on any trip to the south, to Naples, to Sorrento, to Positano. Even if you're not really going to Naples, if you're just going to Positano or Sorrento, I would still highly suggest going to Pompeii, even if it's just for a few hours. It's a beautiful place to go in the evening, and then you can go back, for drinks somewhere where you can see the sunset. But it is such a beautiful place, and it's it very much is worth your time, and it very much respects your time. I think that's the big thing. There's so many places in Italy specifically that feels like it's not very respectful of your time if you're running around trying to do things, if that makes sense. It's like either set up very poorly, or it's just confusing, or it's a big hullabaloo and there's not much to do when you're finally there. That I feel like Pompeii is very much it's like, once you're in, it's just around every corner there's something fascinating that will make it be like, this was worth it. This was worth it.
And on that note, I will say, if you're somebody who just likes to wander, obviously just wandering with no information is great. That's what we did the first time we went, I think. But having a pamphlet to know what you're looking at is incredibly helpful. And I think, like we said in Wednesday's episode, if you can, having a tour guide, it can be really fundamental just to know exactly what you're looking at. And we'll put also a link in this description to the pamphlet that I was talking about online that has information about each of the rooms. So if you want to look that up ahead of time, you can do that.
And thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you for listening. Tanti abbracci.